you from going through what they're going through, we're here now at Covenant House. Stay tuned to B.E.T.
Here we are.
Yes. So here we are at Covenant House, one of the few places in New York City where people are actually trying to do something. What we'll be talking about today has a lot to do with the do's and the don'ts, and not the do's, what you do to be homeless or what you don't do to be homeless, but in actuality, who's actually doing something and who's actually not doing something. Here, I'm sitting here because Covenant House, a privately owned situation, actually ran by the Catholic people of this nation. This situation is a wee bit different from the normal shelter life, as opposed to the normal shelter life you have. All kind of people running around, you know, give me this, give me that, hey man, who are you, this, that, and the other. It's a little more cut and dry, a little more street. Here, it's a sort of like a home environment. As you can see, I'm sitting on a couch. The lighting is a little brighter. All of this has to do with the psychology of you getting out of here. So, we'll just continue down the line. Of course, you know, I'm chilling with Randy over here. And our message goes out to all youth of America, youth my age, youth Randy's age. Here we are at the Covenant House in inner city Manhattan. Very important place to be. Why? Because when you understand that in America, we are very disadvantaged. And not say disadvantaged where you gotta say, well, I'm disadvantaged, I'm handicapped, so I can't do nothing. No. Disadvantaged to the point where there are forces working against us so that we cannot progress as everyone else is going to progress. This is the purpose of this program, to give you a warning signal as to what is actually going on. The topic, homelessness. Here we are at Covenant House where a lot of youth are, they go in, they come out, they come here, they eat, they sleep, they move on. This place, as opposed to all the other shelters here, matter of fact, maybe more specific, there's two types of shelters. There's the Covenant House type of shelters, and then there are the New York State shelters. The New York State shelter, or whatever state you're in, I'm in New York, so I'm saying New York State. Whatever state you're in, this shelter is usually an armory, an old school, some sort of state institution that they cleared out its original intent and put in these beds, et cetera, et cetera. The difference between those shelters and this shelter, Covenant House, is that those shelters are ran by the state. These shelters are privately run. Some sort of Catholic association, Christian association, Muslim association, Buddhist association, some sort of religious organization or organized group of people would get together to say, well, we feel that youth should be taken off the streets. Money is not necessarily made here. Money is spent here. Every time youth walks through the door, money is spent. So, of course, situations like this, they're looking for funding, but they seem to have their act together. Now, the state-owned shelters are a little different. Every time you walk into the shelter system or a New York state-owned shelter, they get paid by the government. An estimated $32 is made on every homeless man that walks into the shelter. Now, this is very interesting to understand, because if you are in a shelter that's making money on you, that shelter is not necessarily going to have you get out of that shelter. They're not going to tell you to leave so they don't make any more money. If you're in a shelter that's privately owned, it's really spending money and getting money from all kinds of sources to survive, that shelter is going to be a little more apt to get you out of here. This particular shelter, what also separates this one from the others, is that the others are for youth over 21. This particular shelter is for youth under 21. This shelter here caters to youth that, like I said before, is under 21. And it's very interesting because the tally, or should I say, the amount of kids coming into this shelter is going up and up and up. Every year, more young people are coming into the under 21 Covenant House sort of shelters every single year. And what you have to understand is that one year, you could be one of these youth in this shelter. This is the purpose of this program.